Kirsten Clayton, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the importance of immediacy behaviors in the classroom. Have you ever had a teacher that you felt really close to, whether you sat in this teacher's class, you sat in the front row of their class, or this teacher was very enthusiastic and they smiled while they were teaching? Well, if you had this type of teacher, they were likely using immediacy behaviors, which have a very significant role in the success of teaching students. So immediacy behaviors was first developed by Albert Mahabrian in 1969, and he kind of defined this as behaviors that enhance closeness to and nonverbal interaction with another person. And through his continued studies of this topic, he found that nonverbal behaviors and verbal behaviors both played a very significant role in students in the classroom and their success rate. And then in more recent years, Joseph Cheesebro and James McCroskey have also defined immediacy as a perception of the physical or psychological closeness. And so when students feel comfortable in the classroom, they are more likely willing to listen and learn on a deeper level because of the connection they have with their teacher through the immediacy behaviors. And so today we're going to talk about three main points which kind of emphasize the importance of immediacy in the classroom. And so the 3 points we're going to talk about are nonverbal immediacy behaviors, verbal immediacy behaviors, and then why these behaviors are important in the classroom. And so first we're going to go ahead and start with nonverbal immediacy behaviors. And Virginia Richmond, Joan Gorham, and James McCroskey explain that these nonverbal immediacy behaviors include eye contact, body position, physical proximity, personal touch, and body movement. So for example, when a teacher is teaching and the teacher makes eye contact with each student in the classroom, this builds a nonverbal interaction with the students, and the students may feel more connected and they may feel more engaged with the teacher, and that the teacher is focusing on each student and takes the time to really connect with each student. And then also, Jonathan Velez and Jamie Cano state that the concept of nonverbal immediacy is based on the idea that teacher nonverbal behaviors will promote feelings of arousal, liking, pleasure, and dominance. So the way in which teachers use nonverbal behaviors in the classroom really has an effect on whether the students are going to like the teacher or dislike the teacher. So for example, when you have a teacher who is very enthusiastic about the material they are teaching, who is joyful and smiling and moves around in the classroom when they're teaching, as opposed to a teacher who seems unhappy and who doesn't move around and kind of just stands in the front of the class and teaches the class, that necessarily isn't bad. But from your perspective, which type of teacher would you rather listen to? The enthusiastic, engaging teacher, or the teacher who simply lectures without any nonverbal interaction? It's likely going to be, you're likely going to choose the teacher that you feel more engaged with and is more enthusiastic. And so that kind of displays the importance of the nonverbal behaviors. And the purpose of using these nonverbal behaviors is to gain student attention and increase the student success rates and learning in the classroom. And so now we're going to talk about the verbal immediacy behaviors, which also are very important in student success rates in the classroom. And so Jonathan Velez and Jamie Cano again discuss that verbal teacher immediacy refers directly to the stylistic verbal expressions used by teachers to develop within students a degree of like or dislike towards the teacher. So just like nonverbal immediacy behaviors, and kind of the whole purpose of using immediacy behaviors is to create likability from the students of the teacher. And so an example of this, again, kind of relates to the nonverbal example, is a teacher using a monotone voice while giving a lecture, as opposed to a teacher speaking very enthusiastically. These two types of teachers, they create a different environment in each of their classrooms because of the way they verbally exert their voice in the classroom. And so students are either going to like this or they're going to dislike this, and it's important that teachers choose these behaviors effectively to be able to increase the student success rate in the classroom. And so the way in which teachers verbally present material to the class, it really has the power to control students' liking or disliking of content, which is why it makes it so important. And so sometimes students are going to learn more from how they are taught than what they are taught, which kind of brings me to the why of why immediacy behaviors are so important and why teachers need to use these behaviors to increase students' success rates in the classroom. Diane Christoffel made the statement that the underlying implication of student motivation appears to lie in the process of how students are taught rather than what they are taught. And so what this is focusing us on is that teachers can teach information all day long, but what really is the purpose of teaching is getting students to know the information and learn the information and like the information they are learning, which proves the importance of using effective immediacy behaviors to make this happen in the students' lives. And then next, the more effective immediacy behaviors used in the classroom, the more students will want to enroll in another course. After conducting a study on college students in the U.S., Australia, Puerto Rico, and Finnish, James McCroskey and his colleagues found that in all four of these cultures, increased teacher immediacy is significantly associated with increased effect toward the content of the class, and in three of four of these cultures said that increased immediacy is associated with increased willingness to enroll in another class in the same subject matter. So this kind of reveals the aspect of when a student likes a teacher, they begin to like the course material and they begin to feel motivated to continue in that course material, whether that's later in classes or in colleges. And so when school boards and teachers are wanting to encourage students to like science, to like math, or one of those subjects, it's important that they use immediacy behaviors to make this happen for the students, or to encourage students to enroll in more courses in these subjects. And lastly, immediacy behaviors are important because they increase student motivation. Virginia Richmond discusses that if a student enters a class with low motivation, to the extent the teacher engages in behaviors which increase the student's motivation, the student will learn more. Similarly, to the extent the student leaves the course more motivated, the more likely that student will use the material learned in class later in life, and more likely the student will engage in the lifelong learning in that area of study. And so this kind of really points out the major effects that immediacy can have in the classroom. And it's really important to use these behaviors, again, because it motivates students in the class to feel encouraged and supported by their teachers, and then it also motivates them in the long run, and it makes them feel like they learned something and that they can take the information that they learned and use it in their life outside of the classroom. I know for me, I have had teachers, I can remember teachers that have been, were very effective in using immediacy behaviors, and I felt so much closer to these teachers, and I remember them now because of those effective behaviors that were used. And so in conclusion, immediacy behaviors, verbal and nonverbal, have been proven to increase the student success rate, which is why they are so important, which is why we should be using them in the classroom. And so I'll close with a verse. And Proverbs 15:30 says that light in a messenger's eyes brings joy to the heart, and good news gives health to the bones. And I think this is such a beautiful picture of the verbal aspect of ministry or teaching and the nonverbal aspect of this, because the light in messenger's eyes kind of reminds me of being joyful and just sharing the joy that Christ has given each of us, and then verbally speaking the good news to all people. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that you learned how to better use immediacy behaviors in your future teaching career, ministry career, or whatever you plan on doing. Thanks for listening.